There is an old story, told in different forms across many cultures, about an eagle's egg that fell from its nest high on a mountain cliff during a violent storm. It rolled down through the rocks and brush until it landed, unbroken, in the nest of a family of sparrows in the valley below. The sparrows, finding a strange egg among their own, did the only thing they knew how to do. They kept it warm. When the egg hatched, what emerged was clearly different. Larger, with a heavier beak, talons too big for the nest. But the sparrow parents loved it anyway, and they raised it exactly as they raised their own. They taught it to hop from branch to branch. They taught it to scratch for seeds in the dirt. They taught it to be a sparrow. The eagle grew. It grew taller than any sparrow ever had, with a wingspan that made the others nervous when it stretched. But it had never seen another eagle. It had no reason to believe it was anything other than the largest, clumsiest sparrow the valley had ever produced. It tried to fly the way the sparrows flew. Short, quick hops between low branches. It was clumsy at it. It crashed more than it glided. The other sparrows, without cruelty, simply assumed this was the best a bird its strange size could manage. One afternoon, a shadow passed over the valley. The sparrows scattered, as they always did when something large moved overhead. But the eagle, the one raised among sparrows, did not scatter. It looked up. It watched the shape circling far above, the same curved wings, the same broad tail, the same way of riding the wind without effort. Something in its chest recognized the shape before its mind understood why. That evening, it found a still pool at the edge of the valley and looked down at itself for the first time with real attention. The curved beak, the powerful talons, the broad shoulders built for something the sparrows had never once asked it to do. The next morning, without telling the sparrows where it was going, it climbed to the highest point in the valley, a cliff edge it had never approached before. Because sparrows never went there, it stood at the edge. The wind was stronger than anything it had ever felt. It jumped. For one terrifying second, it fell exactly the way it always had, clumsy, uncontrolled, the fall of a bird that had only ever practiced hopping. And then its wings caught the wind the way they were always built to. It rose, not in small hops, but in long, effortless circles, higher than the cliff, higher than the trees, higher than anything in that valley had ever climbed. For the first time in its life, it was not trying to be something. It was simply being what it had always actually been. That night it returned to the valley, not to live among the sparrows again, the way it had before, but to say goodbye to the only family it had ever known. The sparrows had given it everything they had to give. It had simply needed something they were never able to teach. The lesson of this old story is not that the sparrows failed the eagle. They loved it the only way they knew how. The lesson is this: you were not made small by the people who raised you in a world too small to see what you actually were. You were only ever waiting to look up.